what district that was. It's not quite time for us to start. So Mr. Dobbs wants to know, and then our other young lady, I'm sorry.
Ms. Boyce.
Boyce, I wanted to know who their representatives up here were. And so I think, Mr. Johnson, you are.
Oh, I don't know. What you talking about?
Their Board of Education representative.
On District Two?
Uh-huh. He said that.
Around the public shopping center.
Yes.
Yeah, that's,
What about on Dry Pond Road?
Dry Pond Road?
Yeah, my grandkids go to Rocky Plains and Alcova.
Well, that's probably District One.
That might be me, yeah, Dry Pond might be,
Okay, maybe you then.
maybe. The line over there is,
It's between the two of y'all.
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's between, for you, Mr. Dobbs, it's between Mr. Bailey and Mr. Johnson.
I got a map, I can look it up right quick.
Yeah, we
So
got
there's
2
one
minutes.
online.
Okay. But now, you didn't live on Dry Pond, right? You live,
Yeah.
oh, you do too? Okay, let's see.
How would we survive without those little?
I have a quick link that goes actually to the map to show us. West Dry Pond is off of
312.
212.
Yeah, just circles around.
That's way down there.
There's 212.
Next to Wet Creek.
They're about the storage buildings and down below the dump.
So you're Pat, Brown Bridge.
Yeah.
Way past that.
Oh, okay.
South.
Coldwater Drive, River Lane,
Going down,
White Birch, Island Shoals,
going down.
on 212.
Yeah, go down. Get to 162, go on past it, and then you'll see a road off to the left.
That's you.
That's good.
That's definitely me, yeah.
Yeah, that's you.
Fincher, Miller, Norman, Yancey. Man, it's before you get to the lake, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it has to be, doesn't it? Yeah, I see ball ground.
call it Dry Pond.
You was going in the right direction.
Yeah, I know it. What happened there?
I'm gonna call it to order since it's 6:30.
Okay.
So it sounds like it may be you though, Mr. Bailey.
Yeah, it'd have to be. Dry Pond, I got it.
Okay. All right, I'd like to call the special call meeting regarding the millage rate rollback to order. Time is 6:30. We do have public participation. Mrs. Coggin is gonna read the rules of public participation aloud as required. And then for both of you guys, for public participation, the microphone is right here on the side. You'll just come to speak in the mic because we do record a meeting, so we need to be able to hear for people who are going to watch it to hear. Mr. Dobbs, I know you were here last week and you were real passionate. I'm going to ask one favor, and that the words that we can't say inside of school buildings, you kind of try to leave those out in your public participation for me, please. So, okay, thank you, sir. Okay, I'll take it.
All right, public participation is the time that the board has set aside to encourage you as members of our community to voice your opinion on any matter, either included on or excluded from the printed agenda. A maximum time of 5 minutes will be allotted to a single individual or a single topic based on the number of requests. Complaints against any employee of the school system will not be heard unless the complaint has been submitted in writing to the superintendent at least 7 days prior to the board meeting. If unresolved, any personal complaints about school personnel must be put in writing for the board to review in executive session. Personal attacks against any member of the board will not be tolerated. Once the time for public participation has passed, discussion of topics will be restricted to board members only. Thank you in advance for complying with this request. So we will start with Mr. Dobbs.
I was behind you, Mr. Dobbs. We're starting with you.
I made sure my phone,
Oh, okay.
I'm not expecting my sister to make it.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
That's terrible news.
I got it wrong, you're a husband.
Okay. You want to come over to the mic for me?
Anybody else?
You first. First up.
Age.
We've become acquainted with you.
That was a good one.
Well,
John Dobbs. I live on Dry Pine Road. I just want to let the board know, I went out today and got school supplies for my grandkids. I got one in elementary school and one going to Alcovey High School this year. I spent $250 just for notebooks, pencils, everything that was on that list that the school give me or give my daughter. Not that, I got the 530 that I'm gonna have to pay taxes on. I already know the board ain't gonna lower my taxes. They're just gonna freeze them. That's what they always do. Plus the 530 and the 250 today, y'all getting a lot of money, just for schools. And 30% of what I bought today will go to Rocky Plains Elementary, where my granddaughter goes to elementary school. I give to the principal and say, here, pass this out to students who don't have it. I even get notebooks from the dump, clean them up, 3-ring binders, clean them up, wash them up, and take them to Rocky Plains for the students who don't have a notebook. That's all I got to tell y'all today.
Thank you, Mr. Dobbs. And thank you for your service to the students as well.
In our presentation, will there be a cost per pupil expense shown? Isn't it on there?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, you ready? All right, Ms. Boyce?
I left teaching the school system here 22 years ago. It was a good school system. I think there's a lot to be said about our school system. I'm concerned that those of us who are retired are taking on second jobs to pay for taxes. Now, it bothers me a great deal that those of us who are fortunate enough to own property are the ones who get stuck with paying for it. I'm wondering if there has been two things. One, I know y'all won't listen to. The other one is the possibility of having a sales tax for our community. And then everybody that is in the community helps with the school every time they buy something. I know other counties in the state are doing this, and it's a successful, even way for us to raise money for our kids. Now, the second one, I know y'all won't do anything about. I fought it when I was a teacher, and that is too much administration overhead. Now, when I was in Newton County, we had a principal, we had two associate principals, we had a principal for discipline, we had in the high school a principal for the 9th graders coming up because they were separated from the other kids. I mean, 5 or 6 principals in one building, and then you're saying, now, where's a counselor? Where's a nurse? Where's somebody who can really serve our students more? I know there needs to be administration. I was frustrated as a teacher that their hands were tied. And with all of the legal stuff, it continues to be tied, and it gets harder and harder. But I'm really concerned that the tax burden is getting to the point that people are gonna be leaving this county. And it's good people that are gonna be leaving instead of helping. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Boyce. And thank you for your service too many years ago when you were a
Yes,
teacher.
22 years ago.
Okay, do we have any other public participation? Do we have any other comments? Okay. All right, so we'll move on to the next item, which is the rollback presentation for the millage rate.
Good evening. Tonight I'll be doing a short presentation on the proposed millage rate for fiscal year 20. And so first we will start out by looking at the 12-year history of the M&O Tax Digest. So beginning in fiscal year 2009 through fiscal year 20, which is the year that just began. You can see on this slide the digest amounts for each year as well as the millage rate for each year and the gross revenue that was generated in those years. From 2009 through 2019, we were in a pattern of losing revenue due to the recession. So you can see that over on the right-hand side in the red. As the years went by, the amount of tax revenue that the school system lost as a result of the recession and the decreasing digest. So in FY20, which I know you all may not be able to see down at the bottom, but we have the digest amount for FY20, and thank you. I have two rows there, and the two rows show two different millage rates. The top row shows a millage rate of 20, and it shows the revenue that will be generated at that millage rate, which would be just about $56.5 million. On the very bottom row, there's a millage rate there of 19.788, and at that rate, the revenue that would be generated would be $55.9 million. So we have these two options here. Currently our millage rate is 20. We have these two options here because we did in May of this year receive an email from our state saying that we would be relieved of paying some fees for health benefits. And so that savings to the general fund resulted in about $600,000 for us that we had anticipated that we were going to pay, but we did not have to pay. So the millage rate of 19.788 would allow us to account for those funds that we did not have to pay and pass that savings along to the community in the form of a lower millage rate. So here we have a calculation for a sample teacher salary and benefits. So on this slide, this is showing the salary and benefits for a teacher with a bachelor's degree and 10 years of experience. So the first row there is for fiscal year 2009, which is the year that we begin to feel the effects of the recession, and then we have years 15 through 20. And as you can see on this slide, the salary and benefits package throughout those years did take a hit. And we are just able this year through raises that were approved at the state level as well as raises that were approved through our local board level. We have been able to restore our salary and benefits package to a point that is actually greater than where it was in 2009. On this slide, you can see the impact of setting the millage rate and what impact that would have based on the millage rates that would be set. So the very top is 20 mills, and that's where we are now. If we were to set it at 20 mills, we would generate $56.5 million. But we do, as a board, have to contribute a local fair share that we as the board has to contribute, and the state contributes as well, but this is our share. So when you take that amount away from the revenue that's generated, you'll get a net revenue amount there for 20 mills at just over $42 million. And so as you go down the slide there, you can see the different millage rates. 19.788 is the option that I talked about on the first slide. And you continue to go down, there's 19.5 option, a 19, and then 18.708 is the rollback rate from the tax commissioner's office. And then 18.21 is the millage rate that was set back in 2008. So you can see as those millage rates decrease, so does our revenue. And those revenue dollars are less than where we were in fiscal year 2009. So it would be difficult to operate off of some of those lower numbers there. So here we have a slide, and this slide shows our per pupil expenditures. So what that basically means is we have about 19,000 students, and our total expenditures is divided over that 19,000 students to come to a per pupil amount. And for Newton in FY18, that amount was $9,400. So the slide is in rank order, but Newton is just at the top so that you can see it easily. But if you were to put Newton in its correct place, it would be in between Jasper and Henry counties, which is towards the bottom there. So this slide focuses on your per pupil local revenues. So our tax revenue is considered local revenue. We also have state revenue and federal revenue. So the previous slide looked at all funding sources. This slide right here only considers the local revenue, which will be your tax dollars. And so our per pupil local revenue for Newton is $2,600, just under $2,700. So the counties on the left-hand side of the screen, those are the same counties that we compared on the previous slide. And if you were to put it in rank order, Newton would fall at the bottom below Jasper. On the right-hand side of the screen, these are additional counties that we compared ourselves to. And again, on this side of the slide as well, Newton would fall at the bottom under Social Circle City. And this slide just shows the average of our local per pupil revenue of over 20 years. And the average over 20 years is $2,348. So in fiscal year 18, we were about $345 above our average. And this slide, the trend does follow the digest that you saw on slide 1. So as you see the decreases here on this slide, those same decreases were on the slide 1. And you can see the decreases begin at the point that the recession started. So here we have a slide of our neighboring counties or counties that are similar to us in terms of student population. And we have their millage rates for FY19. So it's in rank order. So you can see at the top we begin with Rockdale, and their total millage rate is 24.900. And if you go on down the list, you'll see Newton down towards the middle there at a total millage rate of 20. These are for the fiscal year that just ended, and some of the counties did not change their millage rates from 18 to 19. There are a couple counties on there that raised it, and there are a few counties that lowered them just a little bit. So it just depends on that county and their needs and their tax digest. And the last slide here is a average sample home calculation based on the proposed millage rates of 20 and 19.788. So at 20 mills, the average home price of $175,000 would generate a tax bill of $1,320 for a homeowner. Again, that's with the average home value of $175,000, which that amount was obtained from the tax commissioner's office. With a average home value of $175,000 and a millage rate of 19.788, the homeowner would pay $1,306. So the difference between the two is $14. You'll be paying $14 less at 19.788 mills versus the 20 mills. And that concludes the presentation. I can take any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Do we have any questions from the board? Any discussion or feedback?
Yeah, excuse me, could you go back to the slide where it showed the teacher's salary, please?
If you could go ahead and pose your question, I have the slide here. I can try to be answering it for
I
you.
just want to try to project
Okay.
where we are today in paying our teachers and where we went down the red so they can get a good feel, a vision of the amount that we shortchanged our teachers.
Okay. I'll just start talking while it is loading. But the very first year, we were down by about $5,500, and that's between salary and benefits. So that was I say first year, but that was in 2015. We were down by that much in 2015. And most of that came from the fact that prior to the recession, there was a 403B contribution of 5%. And when the effects of the recession began to happen, that rate had to be lowered to 0.5%. So that's part of that decrease over the years. And then also the salary schedule, from what I understand, because I was not here, but it was frozen, the steps were frozen and things like that. So the teachers didn't move up on the salary schedule.
And my point to this is we dipped into the funds of the teachers' benefits. And I supported that. And I wasn't the only board member to vote for that process. And I think we owe it to our teachers to try to get, over time, back the funds that we took away from the benefit program. My constituent, and I guess you're in the district, would love to see an increase in your benefit paycheck. That's what happened to it right there. And my thing is, we should replenish that with the funds that we're expected to get back going forward. And if we don't do that, we will be setting a ceiling. We'll be saying, in my opinion, that on the other slide, I don't know which one it was, that's the maximum funds that we will need to support this institution until we have another opportunity to raise the taxes on the millage rate. And I don't think we should be back here next year talking about increasing a millage rate. We have years On the teacher side, that's not, the other side was the teacher's salary also.
This slide has the teacher's salary on it.
Okay, well, what was the other one? It showed $4,100. It was from 2010 through 19. That's not the one that I was thinking about. But anyway, you see the red line indicates the funds that we took away from our teachers.
Yeah.
And I think we owe it back to them. And what we're not realizing, in my opinion, is that we got a depressed figure there. And it makes it very hard to recruit good new teachers because we are low in that area. We sit around and we thumbs our fingers what the problem is. And that's one of the problems because we're not paying our teachers where we should and we're not competitive. It's a difficult task and it's ongoing, and I don't think we should bother the millage rate. Because we're creating a ceiling. It's going to be embarrassing to come back here next year and say, we should have kept the thing at 20. And now we're short of funds. I mean, you see the economy for the past six months grew at a 2.1 rate. And it's going to take 18 months or so to get to Georgia. And next year, we'll be in the midst of asking for more funds, and we'll come up short. During that period, we also have buses, schools, things that we need to fix and spend that money from the difference between the 19 and the 20 millage rate. We don't have any room to drop the millage rate and effectively manage the financial affairs of this school district. Thank you.
Any other comments? Feedback? Thank you, Ms. Robinson.
You're welcome.
Okay. So tonight actually concludes the 3 special call meetings that we had to have regarding the hearing. So we'll actually, if you guys want to stick around, we take a vote at 7 o'clock on what to do with the millage rate. So that'll be shortly. For now, if there's no other feedback or comments, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn, and we have 6 minutes until 7 if you guys want to take a short break. Okay? May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, meeting adjourned 6:55.
Yes, ma'am. I'll take them. Thank you.
Sorry, you guys, and unfortunately, we have to wait till 7 just in case somebody comes. So like, wait a minute, it started at 7 o'clock.